not free. See, what you don't realize out there is this is about the 5th time we've done this. Of course, we fucked it up like 20 times already. And I'm here with my co-host, Frank Santopadre, and this is Gilbert and Frank's Amazing Colossal Obsessions.
It is. You know, when you do that loud hi, it reminds me we had Penn Jillette on the show, and you went every time you went high, you went, hi! We're here at Nutmeg with our trusty engineer, Frank Verderosa, and our less trusty researcher, Paul Rayburn. I'm giving you shit like him.
Yeah,
I guess
two against one.
Yeah.
We love Paul to death. Hey, I'm going to do a little Jay Leno moment here and set you up.
You know, I read somewhere.
It was in 1947.
Did you, was some film that you were involved in receiving an honor?
It's on the
Recently?
list.
Yes.
It hasn't been nominated just yet, but it's on the list. There was a story in the New York Times about this guy, Ron Suskind, a writer, who had a son who was autistic. And and the autism was getting worse. He was sinking deeper and deeper into it. And he couldn't have any kind of communication with his son. But the son would watch Disney films all the time. And one day the father came into his son's room and he saw a puppet of my character, Iago the parrot from Aladdin. He put it on and started imitating my voice. And his son turned around like an old friend had shown up. And he said, you know, what's it like being you? And he said, I'm not happy. I'm sad. I don't have friends. And that was like the beginning. My voice was the beginning of the communication. So this film, Life Animated, goes into that whole story.
And it's on the list of films to be nominated for an Oscar?
Yeah,
for
documentaries.
For best documentary.
Best documentaries.
Okay, great.
It's up there.
Haven't seen it yet. We had it on the View, and you were on with the boy.
Oh, yes.
And with Ron. So, looking forward to seeing the film. So, congratulations. Prematurely.
Yes. Prematurely is something I'm used to. Yeah,
keep your personal life out of the booth. Now, here's an odd topic. We've talked a lot about 1966 and 50 years. This year we did a lot about 1966. We did One-Hit Wonders of 1966. It was a great year in pop culture history.
And you know, 66 people did hear, right?
We did it. We did
that one they heard.
Yeah, that one the audio was survived.
72, 73, and 74. Those decades are gone as far as this podcast.
Yeah, well, we can always
concerned.
bring them back again if you've got another couple of songs left in you. But we talked about One-Hit Wonders of 66. We did the top box office films from 66. We did TV debuts in 66. And I was looking around, and I thought, what do we do for one of these mini episodes? And I saw that Kirk Douglas was going to turn 100.
Wow.
This week, born in 1916. And Paul and I were emailing back and forth, and I said, what about born in 1916?
Well, you know, it's particularly appropriate because 100 is, I believe, the average age of our guests.
Right, so that works out.
That's our younger guests.
That works out. So instead of 50 years, I thought we'd talk about 100 years ago.
Yes.
And I went to IMDb, and I said, okay, so who was born in 1960? Because we had done a Gleason episode about Jackie being 100. Jackie would have been 100 this year. Born in 1916, and it was quite an impressive.
I can't see her here, and I'm peeing all over myself.
Oh, that's going in the act.
Yes.
Incontinent Jackie Gleason will now be in the Gilbert. So here,
I'm not incontinent. I am a continent.
He's quick. He's quick. Here's some names of people who've come up on the show.
Yes.
Who were born in 1916. Who had they been Kirk Douglas, had they been as durable as Kirk Douglas, or Olivia de Havilland, who turned 100.
Still alive.
Who turned 100 on July 1st, and she's still with us.
Wow.
But here's one of your favorite actors, born in Philly in 1916. From Failsafe, MASH, and 12 Angry Men, Edward Binns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've talked about him. He's come up.
And he was in Night Moves with Gene Hackman.
Correct. A movie you've talked about on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Edward, one of Sidney Lumet's favorites.
Oh, really?
Turns up, Failsafe and 12 Angry Men. I think he's in a couple other Sidney Lumet. So Edward Binns would have been 100. Bill Melendez, who was the producer of A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh.
Because we talked about, we did an episode about The Grinch, and we were talking about Charlie Brown Christmas. Here's somebody who's come up on the show repeatedly. Born in Passaic, New Jersey, the creator of It's About Time.
Oh.
And The Brady Bunch. And Gilligan's Island, who we discussed at length when we had Dawn Wells here, and that's Sherwood Schwartz.
Oh, wow.
Born in 1916.
Passaic, New Jersey.
Passaic, New Jersey, a local boy. And this one...
This is a story. I saw Sherwood Schwartz on some interview thing, special about the Brady Bunch. And they said he and Robert Reed always hated
there was a lot of tension, yeah.
And then they went into Robert Reed. He died of AIDS. And everyone showed up at the funeral, and the cast and crew, and they were all talking about how they were devastated by his death. And the only one who didn't show up was Sherwood Schwartz.
I didn't know that.
And so the interviewer said to Sherwood Schwartz, he goes, "Weren't you sad when Robert Reed died?" And Sherwood Schwartz said, "Course I was sad. When word gets out that he died of AIDS, that can kill you in syndication."
Oh, my God. He really said that on camera, and they kept it.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry I brought it up. This is like when we did the Paul Lynde tribute episode, and you spent 30 minutes maligning him.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Oh, I hate those Jews.
Here's one you can look up, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an actor who's come up on the show repeatedly when we had Steven Weber here. And he came up again with Hal Linden. And that's the late, great Phil Leeds.
Oh, yes.
Leeds, Paul.
He was in Ghost.
Yep. They describe him on IMDb as one of those for whom the phrase character actor was invented. And they describe him as a slight, wizened man with a rubbery face, bulging eyes, and a Durante-like nose. He excelled at playing weaselly little snitches.
Yeah.
Like Alicia Cook.
Oh, exactly.
Excelled in those kind of roles.
And he was the judge on Ally McBeal.
Indeed.
He was a lot of parts.
He was Hank Kingsley's 1,000-year-old agent on the Larry Sanders Show. But I'd love to hear some more of his credits. Phil Leeds. So we'll move on past him as Paul looks him up. Richard Fleischer, the director of Soylent Green, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Tora, Tora, Tora.
Oh, wow.
Born in Brooklyn. We've had a lot of guests on this show who are local.
Yeah.
A lot of locals. Hal Linden.
Oh, yeah.
And Dominic Chianese and Larry Storch and Tony Orlando, and the list goes on. And sure, yeah. Here's some more. Now, this one you have a personal connection to.
Oh, God.
Okay. This was a fateful day in our personal history.
Yes.
When I ran into you in the street on Ventura Boulevard. You know where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
We went to the nostalgia convention.
And I didn't know who the fuck you were. I didn't remember having worked with you.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that was true until about 12 weeks into this show.
Yes.
We had worked together on a show called Caroline's Comedy Hour, and I pulled up. I saw Gilbert walking down Ventura Boulevard because he doesn't drive, and you never had a driver's license. And you were wandering aimlessly, and I pulled over, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to this autograph show." And you just got in the car.
It was basically like a pedophile.
Yeah, or like when Frank Sinatra Jr. was kidnapped.
Yes.
Yeah, I could have just taken you anywhere. I said Don Knotts and Pat Harrington Jr. were going to be in there, and he got in the car before I finished the sentence. What'd you find on Phil Leeds?
So Phil Leeds, I think he's done a lot of movies that only you two will know.
Okay, hit us.
So he was in Rosemary. Did you mention Rosemary's Baby?
I did not.
Rosemary's Baby. Don't Drink the Water. Wonton Ton, the dog who saved
of course,
Hollywood.
With Ron Liebman.
That's come up before. We've done that
and
one.
Don't Drink the Water was with Jackie Gleason.
Written by
Don't
Woody
Drink
Allen.
The Water. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
History of the World Part 1. Now, this sounds like it's up Gilbert's alley. Frankenstein's great aunt Tilly. Does that ring a bell?
Gil, did you miss that
no,
one?
but it sounds good. But yeah, you took me to this autograph
I
signing
took you to the autograph signing, and you walked in, and you were immediately accosted by whom?
Oh, I was at the table with Corella DeVille
Yes.
and Snow White.
Right, Snow White.
And
Who was in the Snow White costume?
Yes. They both looked 1,000
Right,
at the time.
right.
And they were in their costumes. Snow White, I get introduced and someone said, "Oh, this is Gilbert Gottfried. You know, he's also a Disney character, as you are." And she grabs my arm with her fingernails in my arm and starts singing, "One day my prince will come."
She sang the whole thing.
And yes, I thought she'd sing one line. Then she sings the next line. Then she sings she does the entire song and ends it with, "And who are you again?"
You know, I'm trying to, who is it we know who insists on singing every verse of a song? There's somebody we know.
Yeah. Right, and now he's shaming her.
Yeah.
He's song-shaming the late Adriana Caselotti.
Yes.
Yes, who was the voice of Snow White, personally cast by Walt Disney when she was 18 years old.
Don't give up on us, baby. Don't make the wrong seem right. The future isn't just one night.
That's a non sequitur. I was trying to figure out what David Soul had to do with Adriana Caselotti, and then I realized you were going off what Paul said
Yes,
previously.
yes.
Yeah,
Keep up with it.
She
would you?
died in 1997. Now, that had to be, I'll tell you when it was. It was 96 that I picked you up.
Wow.
Because I had just moved back to L.A. the second time after we did Caroline's Comedy Hour in New York. So she had to die a year later.
Wow.
She was at death's door when
so
she was.
I killed her.
You killed
Yes.
Adriana Caselotti.
And I remember at that same autograph signing convention, I was walking around, and as I walked past one table, I hear, "It's that loudmouth fucking Jew." And I go, "What?" And I hear again, "The loudmouth fucking Jew." And I turn around, and it's Howard Morris.
And he was dressed as Ernest T. Bass.
Yes, from like the way he used to dress in Andy Griffith.
People would come to these shows in the costumes. Pat Harrington was there dressed as Schneider, and
Oh,
Norman
yeah.
Fell was there.
I sat down and spoke
Yeah.
to Norman.
And
Fell.
the highlight of my life to that point was introducing Gilbert Gottfried to Adam West.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had worked with Adam before. That was memorable. So according to this, she was in It's a Wonderful Life and The Wizard of Oz. I don't know. I don't.
As
I don't
what?
know her from either one.
Yeah.
From either film, but she had a personal Gilbert Gottfried experience. Born in New York, New York. We talked about him on the show. He died at the age of 75 in 1991. Irwin Allen.
Oh,
The
king of the disaster.
The
films.
master of disaster. Yeah. Not only the movies that people know, like The Swarm, which we talked about with, with Lee Grant.
Yes.
And The Poseidon Adventure, and Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Towering Inferno.
And The Towering Inferno.
And The Day the World Ended.
That was the working title. They released it as When Time Ran Out.
Oh, yes.
With
yes.
Jackie Bissett and
Paul
Newman. And
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
and well, the TV, I was going to say, he had a TV career.
Yeah.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Oh,
and
and my God. Didn't he create history of the story
That's the
of
guy.
story of mankind.
The guy that cast the Marx Brothers and separated them.
separately.
Yes.
One bit had Groucho, later on a bit had Chico, later on a bit had insane.
I remember Harpo was Sir Isaac Newton.
Oh, yes.
And I think, I can't remember. Could you look that up?
I will.
It was
You know,
Groucho-
Lost in Space was also
yeah,
one of
Lost
her
in
ones.
Space,
yes.
Land of the Giants, The
Land of the
Time
Giants.
Tunnel.
and
Right,
Lost
that's
in
right.
Space we had on Billy Mummy.
That's right. Yeah, and James Darren agreed to do the show. We could
Oh,
talk about
yes,
the Time Tunnel.
Time Tunnel.
So we got in next
Who
year.
did you
We'll
want
call
me to look
James
up? You know,
Darren.
you just mentioned-
Look up the movie he's talking about. Is called The Story of Mankind, and that was
That's
the
an Irwin
one.
Allen?
That was the
and
Irwin
and
Allen.
it had a few other celebrities.
Ronald Coleman's in it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
One of the worst movies ever.
Yeah. It's a backhanded tribute episode.
Another one of these.
Groucho is
I think he's Peter Minuit.
Peter Minuit.
Yeah.
And he's talking to this Indian girl who I think was one of his ex-wives.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minuit or Minuit. The fellow who sold Manhattan to the Indians.
It was a
or bought
terrible
bought
movie.
Manhattan from the Indians.
Now, I'm looking for that, but are you familiar with Beyond the Poseidon Adventure?
Well, sure.
Of course.
With
Gene
Carl
Hackman.
Malden and Sally Field and Michael
See
Caine.
around us.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think Gene Hackman was in that,
It's funny you bring up Gene
too.
Hackman, too, because wasn't Gene Hackman up for the Robert Reed part?
Yes.
In Brady
yes.
Bunch?
And I think Sherwood Schwartz wanted Gene Hackman.
Can you imagine?
Gene Hackman would be like a joke name.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it's like Sandra Bullock went up for Baywatch.
Oh, yeah.
Had she gotten that,
She also did.
Yeah.
She also did, if I recall, she did the Baby Boom pilot based on the Diane Keaton movie.
Oh yeah, and
Sandra Bullock.
She was also in Working Girl.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Working Girl. Yeah.
Who was she in Working Girl?
They did a pilot. They did a pilot based on the movie.
Based on the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was Baby Boom, but I think you're right. I think it was Working
Yeah.
Girl.
You know,
the
this
Road
is
Not
another one.
Taken.
Irwin Allen, I would encourage the listeners to look at Irwin Allen on IMDb because the posters of these movies are spectacular.
Oh, they were
Like
wonderful.
I mean, they're
they used
really
to have all those little
so
faces
great.
along the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
they're just terrific here.
Yeah. Yeah, we did an episode about Irwin Allen, but we're going to do another one where we focus on the disaster
And
films.
those Irwin Allen movies, they were like, it was kind of like Love Boat. They would find these people that you swore were dead.
That's right. Right. Gloria Swanson is in.
Fred Astaire
yeah.
is in one.
Yeah. Yeah. Fred McMurray turns up in The Swarm,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Fred
Well, that's like-
Astaire's in the Towering Inferno.
It was Lee Grant who said you do one for yourself and then you do one for them.
You do
wasn't
the
it?
bees. We love Lee. Here's an actor, David White. Do you know that name?
Oh, that name sounds...
He was in The Apartment. He was in The Sweet Smell of Success. But he was famous for playing Larry Tate on Bewitched.
Oh, my
geez.
God.
Darren's boss.
Oh, my
What
God.
is it, David?
David White. Remember
David
this
White.
actor? The white hair?
Of course,
Yeah.
but I
And a
never...
stash?
I mean, he's one of those... I think on his tombstone it should have just said Mr. Tate.
Born in
Best known for playing Larry Tate. yes,
born
yeah.
in 1916. Here's one I know you know. Born, we've talked about him too. Born in Staten Island. Died young, died at the age of 58. In Rebel Without a Cause, but famous for playing the Chief on Get Smart. Ed Platt.
Oh, wow.
Or Edward Platt.
Yes.
And Rebel Without a Cause. A local boy, a New Yorker, Staten Island. We talked about him with Barbara Feldon.
Yeah, and everybody agreed he was like an underrated comic actor.
Yeah. Leonard Stern remembered Platt as the juvenile officer in Rebel Without a Cause and wanted him specifically for the role of the chief.
I got another one, North by Northwest.
He was in North by Northwest, correct. Dinah Shore, born in 1916.
Jew.
There you go. Her real name was Frances Fanny Rose Shore, born in Winchester, Tennessee. How many Jews are from Tennessee?
None that lived to a ripe old age.
Here's one for you, Gil, and maybe you met her in your travels. She was known as the Big Mouth.
Oh, she was married to that weird guy.
Yeah, well, she was married 7 times.
Yeah. Martha Ray.
Martha Ray.
Yeah.
Wow.
No stumping you.
She had that real psycho, obviously gay husband.
She's also in The Finks,
Oh, jeez.
which I'd like to say we just brought up to Rich Little, who's listed in IMDb as being in The Finks, and he had no recollection whatsoever.
Blissfully.
Put that one out of his mind. Martha Ray was married 7 times. She also worked with Chaplin. She's in Monsieur Verdoux.
Wow.
Yeah, good stuff. Here's one. What if I asked you the actress who provided the voice of the demon in The Exorcist?
She was a popular. Mercedes Rule.
Mercedes McCambridge.
McCambridge.
Yeah. From
Yeah.
Johnny Guitar and Giant.
And at the time, I think she was an alcoholic, I think. And she had already a gravelly voice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
She was great as the voice of the possessed Reagan.
Yes.
In The Exorcist. Look up. Tell us what you can find about Mercedes McCambridge, Mr. Rayburn. As I move through this illustrious list of people born in 1916. The author, he's born in Wales, not known for this, not famous for this, but the screenwriter of You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
He just came up on the show. And Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Roald Dahl.
Now,
born in 1916.
Roald Dahl, or
I don't even know how it's pronounced. Yeah. He was Welsh.
Roald Dahl. I heard he hated the Jews.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, why would that be?
So it's perfect revenge that Gene Wilder played one of his most
I don't think he was happy with that picture. I think that what I read about him today was that the screenwriter of Willy Wonka took liberties with his story.
We just watched the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka the other night.
Yeah.
And boy, he's a weird character in that.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was,
he's like Michael Jackson in that.
He really is strange. He got
like
lipstick
that.
on, and he's
Yeah. You think that one is more faithful to the story, to the source material?
I don't remember the details of the story well enough to know. It's a Tim Burton movie.
I know,
and I love Tim
it's pretty
Burton, but
maligned.
it's not my favorite Tim Burton movie by a long shot.
Roald Dahl had an interesting life. He was a flying ace in the Royal Air Force, and almost died when his plane crashed.
Wow!
And was married to Patricia Neal.
Oh, geez!
Did you know that? The famous actress,
yes,
from The Face in the Crowd,
and the subject was Roses.
Very good.
Jack Albertson and Martin Sheen.
Very good. No stumping you today, Godfrey.
Oh, we got to get Martin Sheen on.
We have
show.
to get Martin Sheen. I think he'd do it.
Yeah.
You ever work with him?
No. I was on the Tonight Show once with him.
Okay.
And I worked
you didn't
with Charlie.
You didn't piss him off like
No.
you did with Jeff Bridges and Harrison Ford, did you?
Is he in New York or L.A.? Is he
Martin Sheen? I think he lives in Los Angeles. But what a career. And you can talk to him about the incident.
Oh, that's right.
Which you love. Here's another famous actor.
I worked with Charlie Sheen.
Okay. Maybe Charlie will do the show.
Yeah.
That'll be a train wreck. I worked with Charlie once. I actually liked him. Here's an actor, a leading man, an Italian leading man. Summertime with Katharine Hepburn. South Pacific. Rossano Brazzi.
Oh, my God.
One of my peeps. Born in 1916.
He's not Jewish.
No. No. Gilbert will yell out the Jews.
The Jews!
I got a big finish for that.
Yeah.
Peter Finch.
Oh, yes.
Oscar winner for Network. Howard Beale, born in 1916. Would have been 100. Died young at the age of 60. How about Hal Smith, Otis the Drunk?
Oh, my God.
From the Andy Griffith Show. And the mayor of Baracho in My Beloved Great Race.
And then they had like one of these Andy Griffith's reunion TV movies.
Yep.
But in there, Otis has stopped drinking.
They sobered him up.
Yeah.
Well, they did the same thing to Barney on The Simpsons. By season 6 or 7, he's on the wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they got complaints.
Yeah, maybe because so many kids watch it.
I think times changed and the funny drunk was no longer in vogue.
Yeah, well,
was no longer PC.
A lot has changed for The Simpsons, which has been on the air for 50 or 60
since
years.
You were 9.
Yeah.
But Barney cleaned his act up. You remember Barney the drunk?
Yes,
Homer's
of course.
barfly friend, Barney Gumble.
Funny.
But Hal Smith also did a million voices. Very, very versatile actor. Van Johnson. Speaking of the Caine Mutiny.
Oh, my God, yes.
Van Johnson lived to the ripe old age of 92. Why do I sound like Carson?
92.
Born in this magical year, 1916. Now, one of my favorite actors, Gilbert, and one of your favorites, a local guy from Upper Montclair, New Jersey. I'll give you the films. The Killing, The Asphalt Jungle,
Ooh.
Godfather.
He was around during the Blacklist.
You bet. He was almost cast as Quint.
Yes,
Jaws.
yes.
But he was deemed too
God, I have his
risky.
name. I have his...
Our listeners are yelling at their
I know.
their devices.
Give me his initials.
SH.
Oh, God.
What's the name of the planetarium in New York City?
Oh, Hayden.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, God. Fuck, this is horrible.
Sterling Hayden.
Sterling Hayden. That's right.
Hayden, a fascinating man.
Hayden.
Yeah. Sterling Walter Hayden.
See, I think his connection, he actually became a friendly witness.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think so.
I didn't know that. Because I mean, he's terrific as McCluskey in The Godfather.
Great. That scene in the restaurant.
Okay. You can cut that part out now, Frankie. Sterling Hayden, born in 1916. In the interest of time, I'm going to move this along. Betty Grable.
Oh, wow.
Also died young. She was married to the band leader, Harry James, and also married to Uncle Fester, Jackie Coogan.
Oh, my God. That's right.
And suppose the story goes that she had her legs insured, right, by Lloyd's of London.
That's right.
Betty Grable.
She was a hero in World War II.
I heard a story that Betty Grable, when she was really old, and she was either in a hospital or a nursing home, she was wearing one of those hospital gowns that folds open in the back. And the nurse started pulling on the gown to hold it together. And I think she was walking in the gown, and the gown was opening up, and Betty Grable wanted to pull the gown together in the back. And the nurse said, hey, it's okay, no one's looking. And she goes, they used to.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear that story?
I hear all my stories.
So here's
We're at the Greek coffee shop?
Yes. And then Betty Grable then shit on a glass coffee table.
All right, I have a
What do you got?
a couple of she did 42 movies in the 1930s and 1940s, which grossed more than $100 million.
She was a big star.
She set a record of 12 consecutive years in the top 10 of box office stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Betty Grable,
Big star.
more than just good legs.
Yeah. I'm going to wind down here. Evelyn Keyes. Do you know that actress?
Evelyn Keyes.
She was in Here Comes Mr. Jordan.
Oh, okay.
She was Sue Ellen in Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Scarlett's sister. Married to John Huston, Artie Shaw, and Charles Vidor, the director. Gleason, we've talked about. We did a whole episode about Jackie. Born in Bushwick, right here in Brooklyn. Another actor who's come up on this show, Mark Hudson's uncle, Keenan Wynn.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's right.
Dr. Strangelove and the Patsy.
Yeah.
And he's in The Devil's Reign.
Yeah.
Which will make you happy. 3 generations. Father was Ed Wynn.
Yeah.
Of course, the perfect fool. Keenan Wynn. And his son, Tracy Keenan Wynn, was a screenwriter who wrote The Drowning Pool and The Longest Yard.
Wow.
And The Deep. So there you go. Talented family. Love him in The Great Race, which I will keep bringing up.
People often forget Son of Flubber as one of
That's
his
right. Thank you,
masterworks.
Paul, son of Flubber. Keenan Wynn had a long career.
I just recently watched Keenan Wynn, and I've seen this movie a billion times before, with Charles Bronson and the Mechanic.
He's in The Mechanic. I was going to list that one. Glenn Ford, a Canadian. 310 to Yuma, Gilda, The Big Heat, died at 90 in 2006. Legendary actor Gwynn Samuel Newton Ford. Olivia de Havilland, still with us.
Wow.
As we said, amazing. And not only did she live to 100, she spent 90 of those years not speaking to her sister.
Oh, that's
or
right.
close to it. She had a famous feud with Joan Fontaine.
Yeah.
Or apparently started in childhood. Still with us. Wrapping it up, Michael Gow. You know that actor?
Oh,
the British
English actor.
Yes.
He was in a lot of those Hammer
He's in the
films.
horror of Dracula.
Yeah.
And a lot of films. Famous for A Man in the White Suit.
And then he was in Batman.
He played Alfred the Butler in Batman late in his life. You know that actor.
Yep.
Died at 94. Last two superstars. A star of one of your favorite movies, The Boys from Brazil.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Peck.
Oh, Gregory Peck.
Gregory
Wow.
Peck. Died at 87. Made 53 features. Had a great career.
Oh, yeah.
Duel in the Sun and The Omen and, of course, To Kill a Mockingbird and Moby Dick. And last but not least, we talked about it, Kirk Douglas. Look up Kirk Douglas's real name, by the way, Paul. He's got a great name. Kirk Douglas. It's something like that. Kirk Douglas will be, we're recording this on Wednesday the 7th, and Kirk Douglas will be 100 2 days from now.
I read a story, I think it's in Kirk Douglas's book, The Ragman's Son.
Uh-huh.
And he says he was fucking every starlet out there. And he was going out with some, like, hot-looking girl. And he said all evening she kept talking about the Jews and making these anti-Semitic remarks. And then later on, of course, he's having sex with her. And in the middle of having sex, Kirk Douglas yells out, "You're fucking a Jew!"
That's a lovely...
Wow, that is heartwarming. I think I heard that on the Dinah Shore Show.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to save it for Christmas.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so
That's
his,
beautiful.
His,
We won't
the
be
name,
getting Kirk now.
the name he was born with.
Yeah, hit me.
So like Glenn Ford, sometimes their stage names are similar to their. Kirk Douglas was Isur Danielovich.
I love that.
Why
Yeah.
didn't he keep that?
Yeah.
So easy to spell.
Or at least Isur Douglas.
What a
would have been-
life, what a career. And in one of your favorites, which has come up on this show, Billy Wilder's
an Ace in the Hole.
Ace in the Hole. Yeah.
Also known as The Big Carnival.
Yeah, and
Very
if
good movie.
recommending Kirk Douglas movies, recommend Detective Story and The Bad and the Beautiful, and the list
Kirk
goes on.
Douglas,
Gunfight at the OK Corral.
he fought for years to get One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest made into a movie
Correct.
as a starring vehicle
Correct.
for him.
And nobody would make it, but
No.
it stayed in the family, and Michael Douglas eventually produced
Yeah.
it, and Jack Nicholson won the Oscar.
And for a while, Kirk and Michael weren't talking. I know that.
Well, I know there was a lot of
Yeah.
there was a rivalry.
yeah.
But listen, the man is 100. How about some props?
Really?
And the idea
Incredible.
he's 100 and has had like a major stroke.
Yeah, like 15 years ago.
Yeah. And still going.
Yeah. So that's 1916, 100 years ago. Well, boys, I think that about wraps it up.
Yes. Boys.
Any other depressing anecdotes you'd like to tell about people in their dotage?
If we go much longer, we'll be approaching 100
We'll be
years
joining
old
them.
ourselves. Yeah, we'll be joining
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Frank.
This has been Gilbert and Frank's amazing colossal obsession.
Happy birthday, Mr. Douglas.
Yeah.
Mr. Douglas.
Colossal Obsessions.